Merhaba, Siyah Diyalog'a hoş geldiniz. Öncelikle biraz diyalogdan bahsetmek istiyorum. Sanat fuarları, sanat eserlerinin tanıtıldığı ve satıldığı bir yer almanın dışında bugün sanatın iletişimi, aracılığı ve eğitimi için uluslararası platform olarak görev görmektedir. Bu nedenle Türkiye'nin önde gelen Çağdaş sanat fuarlarından Contemporary İstanbul 10 yıldır düzenlenmekle beraber Siyah Diyalog'u da paralel olarak götürmektedir, devam ettirmektedir. Bu kapsamda 3 gün boyunca 50'den fazla sanat profesyonelinin, sanatçıların, küratörün ve eğitimcilerin katıldığı paneller düzenliyor olacağız. İlk panelimiz galeri sohbetleri hakkında olacak. Sanat piyasası ihtiyaçları ve istekleri üzerine olacak. Moderatörümüz Süreyya Vil, Artsi Avrupa, Afrika ve Orta Doğu Başkanı, Galeri İlişkileri Yöneticisi. Konuşmacılarımız ise Yeşim Turanlı, PR Works Galeri sahibi, Gregor Horst, Galeri König Direktörü ve Stefania Schleifer, I hope I pronounced correctly, okay. Simoli Galeri'nin satış direktörü. Panelimiz başlamak üzere. Ben moderatörümüze veriyorum sözü.
Hello everyone, I'm Soraya. I work at Artsy, and I will allow our panelists to introduce themselves in English also. We'll begin with you.
Hi, Yeşim Turanlı. I'm the founder and director of Galeri, Istanbul and London. I can say that we're one of the very older contemporary art galleries in Turkey, established in 1998. It's almost been 20 years, and we're operating both in Istanbul and in London. And London Gallery is founded in 2013, so it's going on its 4th season now. And our booth is located just below downstairs.
Merhaba. Hi, I'm Gregor Horst from König Galeri, one of the directors of Johann König's Gallery, who founded this gallery in 2002. We are a primary gallery with maybe young artists, mid-career artists in the contemporary sector. I've been working there for the past 6 years. That is actually the background against which I'm talking today, because I've been working 3 or 4 galleries before, but yeah, they were not so active in the market yet. And the gallery is based in Berlin, by the way.
I'm Stephanie. I work for Sohbeti at the Gallery in London and one in Hong Kong. I've joined Sohbeti 2 years ago. Us two, we focus on living artists and put on 6 to 8 shows per year in London and in Hong Kong.
So, the topic of this panel is the state of the market today and what it means to be a commercial art gallery. So, I thought to begin, if we're talking about the state of the market and the gallery today, we should first look to history and who and where did this format of the gallery of the 21st century begin. So for me, I was thinking of Leo Castelli in New York. He was the first gallerist, I think, who would be credited with who would be credited with the idea of the mega gallery. He had gallery satellites, so galleries in multiple locations. He had artists on retainer, and he, I think, really set the tone and the format for many galleries that operate today. So I ask our panelists, what does it mean to you to be a commercial gallery in 2016? And do you think it's changed over time?
Ladies first? Well, without passion, either it's commercial or non-profit, I don't think this is a business that you can do without passion. I started in 1998. Briefly, I was living in the States back then, and I jumped into it. Literally, I jumped into it without knowing if there was any market, if there are any galleries, and I found out that there are no gallery-artist relationships. There is no obvious market, and believe it or not, for the first 3 years, we didn't even price. We didn't have to. We didn't think about pricing the exhibitions. What we did some classes, we did adult courses. We tried to come up with creative solutions just to keep the gallery going on. For me, the actual pricing and the commercial feel to it started around 2007, where I started doing heavily international art fairs, moving from one fair to another fair, and Istanbul, with the actually economic European crash, started to get a lot of interest from the rest of the world. Turkish collectors became very powerful, and then I started feeling what is the market, what's buying, selling, investing, not investing, just buying from the arts, but buying by investment purposes. So 2008, end of 2011, it was a market going high, and then that was the time that I had quite a bit of international profile, and I decided that I have an outlet somewhere else than Istanbul, so I can also share my exhibitions with another profile, reach my collectors more than once in a year. That's when I decided to move to London. And that's another story, but I'm not going to go into that. It's also very competitive. Largely, I find that the market is dominated by mega galleries. But then again, every blockage you have on your way, for me at least, makes me more creative. And today, we had a very good opening day for Contemporary Istanbul. Right now, about 30-35% of my artists are Turkish. The rest is from all around the world. We do 4 or 5 international fairs, and the gallery keeps on going. I have done the very first shows of maybe 80% of my artists. So I like moving around with the artists. I like promoting their career. I like being their friends. I like feeling like family. In a sense that it's amateur in a way, but we try to keep that feeling and do professional with it.
Can you start referring to Leo Castelli, because you said like with a historical reference? And yeah. And funny enough, I had in mind Galeri from the 1920s in Germany, which was probably a non-commercial gallery, but someone who had, can you hear me? That's fine? Who was an avant-garde gallery. And actually, maybe there's also a difference between, like Western Europe and the States, that also when I started at the gallery, there's still the ideal of the avant-garde gallery, and you actually, especially in Germany, you're not allowed to talk about money, and it's all about compassion, and showing artists that everyone is getting, like, oh, how can you do this? And, still trying to break the rules, even like at the beginning of the 21st century. So the art market, as far back as I remember, it was still when I was studying, had not such a big meaning. I was studying art history and cultural science, cultural studies. Within the 7 years I was studying, no one was talking about galleries or the art market. It was until 2005. And I think when you mentioned 2007, that was this turning point when, and this is like a common sense nowadays, the art map controls everything. And most of the people are saying this was like, it's all, commercialized, and the ideal that the passion are vamped out because of that market is ruining it. But it's not that easy. I mean, this way of thinking comes from the 1970s, and this is a bit, backwards. If I look at like the history of König Gallery, also in Berlin, Johann started at the age of 20, without eyesight, a small gallery in a town where there were like maybe 4 galleries by the time. Now it's 400. And with artists that were pretty avant-garde. Most of them came from Schlegelschule and were doing pretty edgy stuff, and there were no prize lists either. And it was more or less about an experiment to see where it could go, and also always with a conscience of we can fail. Within 2 or 3 years, the 2,000 Deutschmarks he had by that time could be away, and this is it. So within these, how much is it, 17 years now almost, I mean I'm there only for 6 years. Even within these 6 years, the meaning of the art market has changed for us as well. When I started 6 years ago, we were 4 people, now we are 14. We were taking part in a lot of fairs already because they had a high symbolic, it was a high symbolic factor already, but they were way cheaper. People were buying less for sure. And then there came this time when it was like, especially for a Berlin gallery, you have to go to fairs to sell. And you have to sell to get money. And you have to have money to invest into avant-garde, you know, to finance like big projects. I mean, of course, if you maybe have a painter who does more formal paintings, you don't have to invest so much money, but as soon as you want to go further with installations, big sculptures, new spaces, you have to get this money. And the specific situation in Berlin is even still today. I mean, we have more and more collectives, especially in the lower mid sector, you know, so all in all, there's more potential, commercial potential, but still we have to do it. But since 2008, we experienced within the last 3 years another turning point, because all the rich Americans who sold our art in the States, they came back to Berlin and they wanted to see a proper gallery, which means not 30 square meters in the 3rd floor of a living house. They want to have, you know, it's a time when galleries like were a substitute for museums as well. So with this thing of the art market, I prefer talking about the betriebssystem Kunst, which is a German notion, or a dry notion, just talking about the complete art system in its whole, where the market, you cannot speak of one market anyway. If I'm here and if I'm in Basel, I see 2 different branches almost. I mean, I don't mean this in a critical way, it's just, you know, completely different people. So, okay, the topic is the market, nevertheless, but maybe we should think about it in a more holistic way, because in this market, in Germany at least, I don't know about Britain, so we made a clear cut between, you know, the bad sharks, the higher we call them, you know, commercial sharks, and then the good institutional people who are still thinking. It's of course nonsense, yeah, it's of course nonsense, and it took years until actually there was also a discourse about it, and panel discussions like this were not always like with one museum director attacking a gallerist over there. You know, it's, but if we get aware of the relations, and it's an almost rhizomatic configuration of how the different protagonists act together. The market, maybe in a more narrow sense of, you know, what is the market? And everything you do that gives you directly money, even not indirectly. Basically all, because you have to maintain your location, you know, the galleries. You lose your artist friends if you cannot pay them. The friendship is over by then. So, yeah, we're living in a capitalist system. But the parameters, that's what I wanted to say, are changing even nowadays within 16 years, changing quickly. Fairs, I think at the moment the fairs are still, you know, everyone's going there, playing their secure cards, trying to make money, but we are not so like, you know, afraid of committees or fair juries because it could break our neck. Maybe. Okay.
Everything that you said, and I also think that passion probably is one of the most important things to enter this business or this market if you're in it for the long haul, for the long term. And I think that's also something today, it's become so global, and you know, information is readily available to everyone. It's very transparent, also thanks to, you know, websites like Artsy or ArtNet. Information is out there and it's overwhelming, and I think there was maybe a period where you sort of try and run after everything, whereas I think today it's almost we're seeing a sort of back step again, where you're like, okay, we need to why are we in this? Why are we doing this? We're doing this because we love art and we believe in it and in its cultural importance for the long term, not so much, what's it going to do to me in the next 3 years, that sort of turnover of things. Competition is absolutely brutal, not only with, mega global galleries that you can almost compare to, a brand. It's become a brand, whereas I think initially it's not about that. It's about creating something unique and showing something unique and having relationships and be it with artists or clients or and doing something of importance that will last. So from our perspective, we really try and not ride that ship so much, but really try and focus on the shows that we put on and also continue to challenge ourselves, to ask why we're doing this, why are we here, and really try and put out the best. And of course, another thing you mentioned, that it is very global, so it entails a lot of traveling, and I don't think there's you cannot, nobody can know everything or see everything. So I think this running after all these trends is something that stops as well. Whereas I feel that for me, I try to specialize. Have one field that you're passionate about exactly, and then forge relationships with other galleries, with museums, in other cities, in other countries, and in that sense, complete each other rather than go against. Yes, that's yes.
And because it is not action, it's very hard to have to action to say that. There's always we're speaking about passion and relations we have. And I don't mean this very critical, but none of it is result.
Yes, absolutely.
There's its market.
Medicine. And artists has to make, like you said, they have to make a living also. So if you don't pay for that, the friendship is over quite fast.
Question maybe first, also for you two, is what, if any, role should a gallery play in its local community? And a follow-up to that would be, do you believe that galleries should take political or cultural responsibilities? And I'm thinking of Turkey today, I'm thinking of Hong Kong specifically, not London, and the Occupy protests. A lot of art came out of the protesters. Berlin, I think there's always something to protest. Do you feel that muddies the waters, or should a gallery take part, or do they owe anything to their community in that way?
Either you want it or not, you're part of the community anyway. But what do? I try to keep the gallery active, where I give tours, we have artist talks, but other than that, I'm not taking this step, another step, because I can't. I'm a small gallery with a very small team, and I try to keep the gallery active in performances, screenings, artist talks, tours, but that's it. That's the extent of it for me.
Yes, it's maybe more about the artists that you choose, that you support, because we're not, the gallery's not the one doing the art. So, if you want to have a clear stance and say, I will not show political art, then that might be one way to navigate this. But I think it's almost impossible, and none of us would ever think like that. Having said that, we don't really show politically engaged artists. Personally, I always love seeing it because I find it probably most exciting or interesting within a community, because But I mean, we do, again, we all do, we have websites, we do films with artists, we have talks, we invite them to studios. So, I mean, we are part of the local community, of course, regardless of what happens.
I have been doing contemporary stuff because of what has happened for the past 11 years. I think that's a support also for community. But that's it.
I have to restrain because
I'm coming from the country of the educators. And this is why, now in this sense, I am a conservative American modernist. Making an abstract painting and making it available, not just to buy, to see it, is a political act. Full stop. Political in a very, so you don't need politically engaged artists. In contrast, political in a narrow sense, which means like political engaged artists, or open your galleries for, I don't know, political communities who can make events or stuff like this, would mean you still have the ideals or the convictions of the 1920s, where, but that is again the avant-garde, saying by art or through aesthetics we can change society, and we know where that led to. Ideas particularly, and in the 1950s there was a clear academic consensus about the Scheitern, which is the failure of the avant-garde in a sense. And I admit, especially young people would say, oh my God, what's this cynical gallery director saying over there? Because they, when I was 20 I had other ideas as well. But then if you have to distinguish it, and I know rather this like suffering under, oh my God, I'm working for this luxury art market and only for the certain rich people. But we are open 6 days a week. We have premises of, I don't know, 2,000 square meters it is. We maintained a listed monument at a value of 5 million euros. Everyone can come and pays no entrance. Everyone gets press releases in 2 languages. Everyone has 2 nice girls at the reception and can ask for the director and will get a tour for free. Why do I have to invite whoever to hold political conferences, or sometimes people come and, oh, I know an artist who is making art about the missing integration of migrant workers in Kreuzberg, which is where our gallery is. Why don't you do a show about it? Some approach me like this. I also have to explain to because I realize someone has not come so far to realize you cannot educate people in this way. You cannot, we are in a neighborhood where it's a socially really weak neighborhood. A lot of unemployed people, a lot of drug addicts, different migrants not coming along with each other. And usually you would say, oh, we make like a letter in every house, and invite you for free art tours. Of course, there's initiatives for that anyway, there's specific clubs, but as a gallery, making this direct step, I find it even more obscene in a way. Then, the people know about it, of course, there's not one gallery in this close neighborhood where we are, so they do realize we are there, and people can buy who never were in touch with art and they really appreciated it. No one was actually complaining like, oh, why don't you do tours, or why cannot, put in the community. This is the exact thing. We're in a building, I have to mention, which is a former church and also a community center. So we bought this whole thing and renovated it, but the actual community center of this neighborhood is somewhere else. And they, of course, could come and say, oh, now that you're here, you're cultural protagonists, why can't we hold like community center conferences in your gallery? And of course, that would not be okay. They couldn't come and make the conference on a Saturday when I have to greet 10 collectives. Not because they are rich and more worth than others, but that's, of course, what comes across. Because it's our business, And again, these people are not just business or just, rich subjects that you have to send like milk a cow. These are also human beings where you have a relationship, and of course this has to be a focus for us. You wouldn't go to Gucci and say, why don't you hold on Sundays when you're closed anyway and make a political conference? I would appreciate that, by the way. Yeah.
We were faced with attacks from the locals. They attacked 4 galleries around there with like frozen oranges and pepper sprays, and it was horrible. And we got criticized by newspapers and everybody saying like we went to their environment, we didn't educate the kids, and like right after the attack, some galleries moved out. Like this is exactly what we should do. But I kept the gallery open for another 2 years, but then I realized I don't want to go into the gallery, I don't want to go into the neighborhood. And I said, like, this is not my job. Like, artists are just going to move. I just got to be happy in my gallery. And we're now in this apartment, quite safe, protected environment.
And I think that it's probably this is, and this is also the first time this is public institutions that offer,
I think it's
that's the way to do it.
why should a take on what a government paid organization should? But also the neighborhoods that I think galleries who are pushing the envelope, let's say, go to, are a lot of times pushing people out of their homes, or for instance, the protests in LA or in Brooklyn were because they're like, get out of our neighborhood, you're bringing the rents up, and you're not doing anything for us. But yes, is that the role of the gallery? Next question. Let's talk about the collector today and how has it changed or not. Who is the average art collector in this day and age? And has it changed the artists that you choose to exhibit and where you show them? If you think of the international, how many more art fairs we have a year? And we'll get to internet later, of course. But the collector and the profile of the collector, has it changed, let's say, in the last like 20, 30 years? Depends on the price point, depends on who's buying and from where. Have you, but in your galleries, the people who walk in the door or the people you see at an art fair, have they changed?
So it became, you hear me, right? Oh my, my voice is loud enough anyway. It's, I found it really, I think it's pretty fine that it became more popular. Of course, we all know how unnerving it was. The fairs got more and more packed. 30 collectors that I would rather call purchasers, eventual purchasers, all every day they want to do a pizza. You know, the whole thing, there was a fashion on, oh, I could think about buying art. And I think Berlin is a quite good example because over the past 6 or 7 years, we had this one famous collector called Christian Boris, who bought a bunker and presented his collection there. And I think he was very inspiring to, you know, a lot of people who, you know, earn good money and other jobs and, you know, classical, I call it rich hobbies, like breeding horses, for instance. One thing they were like, oh, what can you do with art? And so far, I would say like until 10 or 15 years ago, it was a really pretty much an elite who was buying especially contemporary art and making this as a hobby, but really like buying, continuously collecting it and then also maybe changing it. And that has changed a lot, and I appreciate it a lot because it's fun to educate them. It's, you know, sometimes, you know, people appreciate it. There used to be still sometimes the type of collector who says, I know what I want anyway and have more knowledge than you. And of course, the 60-year-old collector knows more than me with my years. And but then there's people like, oh, I want to ask you for your advice, and they get that you see all of a sudden also a passion in their eyes, and you realize, oh my God, actually this can be fun. I'm really happy that we still all feel the passion. I must say I'm so much into this passion part that I'm totally detached of like, you know, honestly there's people who work for insurances and they're like, oh, you're a gallery director. And I'm like, yeah, so what? You know, I mean, it's hard work. But I think like, you know, I want to run with a nice team that don't do everything, but actually sometimes you get through others who start collecting, especially who start collecting art, and it's a long process. You know, they start in the beginning maybe with 10 to 20,000 per year, and then they go further, and all of a sudden, oh my God, you are really buying this artwork, which, you know, it's like expanding your. They have a budget, but they have to dare to do it. And that's, I must say, this is really left aside, not, you know, it saves a salary, left aside that, it's just to realize, yeah.
You can't really put it into brackets. It really depends what segment you sell. And in that sense, I can't say the per se have changed. But then again, as Gregor says, you know, I'm not 60 years old, so my experience is probably different than from ours. Or say, totally. Yes, of course. But the exciting thing is that it is more global. There are definitely more collectors, also more people that come through the guide, different people. Interestingly, you know, when you mentioned people that walk into the gallery, does that happen? And it does. Not a lot, but it does, you know, and that's super exciting. People that you've never heard of, none of your colleagues have ever heard of, all of a sudden they just drop in, and they're super exciting. They have a huge passion, they want to learn, they want to know, and they actually they buy and they continue to buy. So that's one of the, it doesn't happen every day, of course, but that's one of the nice surprises.
$100,000, my female collectors have risen quite a lot last 5 to 7 years. They have their own businesses, they have their company are doing really great globally. Yeah.
Maybe like in the curriculum or internationally?
Locally, I'm talking.
Locally, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That's remarkable. So, to the internet, because I do work at Artsy, how has making art more accessible online affected the collecting habits of the public and how they're coming to you, the galleries, and has this changed the way you do business? Obviously we all use email, but it's different now when someone doesn't walk in person or you get a sales inquiry online, you've never met this person in your life, and it removes that familiarity. I guess what are your tactics or strategies, or how are you using it, and do you think it's a hindrance or is it a positive thing to put all this art online now, accessible to anyone who has an internet connection? I'll start with the people on Artsy. Gregor?
I mean, generally it's a positive thing. There's no doubt about it. But maybe I already told you, I was going to start with something positive, as you know, just tell you, and then I start with something negative. But anyway, you know, when we started with this art scene, also because it was programmed so well in contrast to others, you know, all of these applications, statistics, everything, and so many inquiries came in, I started, you know, writing emails back to the people about the content of the artwork and the context of the general oeuvre in it. And you know, I was like, oh, it's so great. They're interested in 10 artworks, because I was, you know, thinking like I would do it, like, you know, I will not write to someone if I'm not potentially able to buy it. You know, I will never try shoes of 500 euros if I know I don't have the money. But then I forget, you're a moralist, maybe, and others are not. Others are just like ding, ding, ding, ding, ding. And I have to say that was a bit frustrating after a while. We were about to quit or to also neglect these, by the way, I'm speaking of these almost automatic inquiries by people seeing artworks on Artsy, I think in other platforms it works similarly, and then the the gallery gets an email. And of course, if I get an email and someone's like, I'm interested to purchase this artwork, I'm not like, yeah, we'll see. I'm, of course, you know, engaging myself and trying to create a dialogue. And in a lot of cases, maybe I was just too naive, also my colleagues were just too naive, and also were advised by Artsy, you know, you don't have to be polite in terms of, you know, writing, you know, you just write back, well, 5,000 euros, basically that's it. And that's not fun, of course. We have indeed, meanwhile, some people who bought artworks without seeing them live. I would say 3 out of 300 inquiries, but I'm pretty sure that all those people who go through the internet, that they're like, oh, maybe I should travel to one of these fairs and have a look at it. Maybe you can improve it by statistics, but I have the feeling with this plentitude of inquiries and clicks, all these people at some point they will leave the house. You know, they cannot be complete nerds. and just torture us, although they don't want to buy art at all anyway. So there will be, I think it is one channel that, you know, when you get the people on fairs, also physically, but it does not have that much of a commercial power as I think a lot of people were aspiring in the beginnings.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at actual sales that was all out of these requests, it is very, very little. I think last year it was 2. And of course, as you say, Gregor, these, you know, the requests that come in sometimes, you know, 10, 20 a day, and then it's a bit slower. But in general, for you know, for our primary shows, I think it's absolutely, it's a good thing that it is all online and accessible and available. And you can see images and you can see installation views. And the nice thing about RT is that they actually write really well. You know, they put artists into context and they give you a lot of background information if you want it. But I think in terms of the requests that you get through, and not just RT, other sites as well, it's quite diluted. But it's like at the fair, you know, you can't know at the beginning, you know, what's the intention of that person. So I think what we try and do is with works that are a little bit more sensitive, maybe, you know, that don't even go to the price at all, and just sort of ask a question back. And often you will never ever hear from them again because that's already too much. Or on the other side, you know, it is like, here, what's the price? And they know, and then they go off, and that's there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. But there isn't a lot of successful deals at the moment.
Aside from sales, though, the educational aspect of having art online, like you look at the Cultural Institute at Google, for instance, they're putting museum collections online. So if you can't afford to go to a museum, you can see it. And then, or like you said, if out of all these inquiries, finally this will make you walk in the door to your gallery or go to an art fair, is that person then a collector? Is that someone is this a new person that you never would have met traditionally at an art gallery, and that now has sort of opened up a new audience?
There is still this resistance to walking to a commercial art gallery. And I do, but it is, in London it really is, but like you say, you know, we all work here, everything's for sale, we don't charge anything, but there is that, and you're greeted by a lovely person who actually, you know, my Phoebe, she gets up from the desk, goes to the front door, hands out an information sheet on the show, you know, it's very welcoming actually, but so I do understand that for some people it is, you know, you've got this barrier of a screen, and if that can lead to the fact that they will then go and actually see the gallery or the fair or the museum, and that's surely a positive thing.
Yeah.
But the techniques are not kind of, I think it's especially for the younger generations.
Yes.
And of course, yeah, you have to, of course, like invest not only in arts, also for promotional, educational reasons, whatever. So you have to make a decision then. So do I want to work with potential collectors of the future? I have to put a lot of money and time and people into invest in this. And I wonder if a gallery that is maybe 4 or 5 years old can really afford that, because the, you know, faster or direct business you do to survive, you do it with people who are standing in front of you live and are already kind of a collector, not like brand collector, but you know, those, you know, people, you know, I go, for instance, I go online for fashion. And I wouldn't call myself a collector of fashion, even not in fashionista, but as a consumer. So, and this is a mode, especially through, I think, like digital media and art platforms, this is where you pick them up. You know, you pick them up instead of, I don't know, shopping at Amazon or buying it or wherever. It's like, oh, and there's also this art platform. And then sometimes there's even prices directly marked. Or just click here if you want to get to know the price. And then, oh, let's try this. So, you know, then you get the interest, and then you educate, of course, also upcoming generations. But for a gallery, it is the market rules everything. Yeah, it's an economical question. And, I mean, probably a lot of galleries, also people working there, still have, you know, more conservative stance, saying, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to deal with it. I want to appreciate. For me, it's like the real collectors are worth it, that are, you know, buying totally edgy art that, you know, a person on the internet would never buy, let's say, a Jonathan Monk, for instance. Yeah, so I want to have only like a discourse about money, and then after a process of half a year of talking about the artwork, then we have a purchase where we also negotiate something with 6 numbers, you know, and where, you know, the classic needs to say, and we have to admit we actually don't have them. But you know, we can get them also there, and there's also different art, of course. But I mean, you know, I'm at the gallery, so I don't even know our numbers, how much we can afford spending time in this or that. But meanwhile, we could like hire 2 full-time persons just for social media, digital media, putting in all the art images, and a lot of mistakes happen. Sometimes it's wrong prices, maybe even online, wrong images, artworks that are sold, and the artist is like, are you fucking crazy putting my artwork on Artsy? I hate Artsy, and then the relation is bad. So that, you know, you really have, it's not just, you know, sitting at home and having fun with the internet. Sorry, that was no sign.
I would never send out PDFs. I really like the experience that people walk in and see the work. Especially I work with artists that are not that new artists, younger artists that globally very few people know about it. And when you put their work on internet or just send PDFs, even that can be misleading. So, these inquiries also, it's really, I feel guilty when I just say like, oh, it's 5,000 euros and send it. But otherwise, like also I feel guilty just spending my time, my staff's time on it. So for me, it's an area that I still struggle, to be honest.
I think what you're saying is right in that it's about a time investment on educating the younger generations and the collectors of the future. And so, as we all use the internet more, trust the internet more, use e-commerce, at Artsy at least we've seen people spend more money on works they've never seen before, but obviously the ultimate goal is that you'll see it online and then visit the gallery, or go to the museum and see it in person, because you can never replace that. And for me at least, putting art on the internet at least means you're exposing it to more people who couldn't or wouldn't immediately think to look. And if that gets one interested new person every day or every other day, I think that's worth it. But yes, it's the long game. I think 6 years ago it was much more the longer game. Now it's becoming more and more obvious that being online in the proper way is important for a gallery it's part of the gallery's virtual marketplace. It's the way they represent themselves in another way. As well as your website. Yeah. But yeah, and an individual website is one thing, and that's what you curate. And then engines like ArtNet or ArtSpace or Artsy, these are capturing many, many, many more people in what they hope is a very democratic way. So to close, before we open it up to questions, to the market. This is very vague, but in a few short words, what do you think will happen in 2017 in the market? What do you expect to see or hope to see in your individual markets or at large?
Sometimes it's just good to have no expectations. I'm doing the best I can. I'm operating in two totally different markets. I try to keep up the motivation up in the galleries, and we're continuing our art fairs without. Actually, we have double the sizes of our booths this year. And our global audience is expanding. Like I have been going to Hong Kong for the past 7 years. When I compare Hong Kong's market to today, to 7 years ago, it's unbelievable. Like people wouldn't even come and ask the prices. They were so timid exchange of just asking the prices. And last year in Art Basel, Hong Kong, it was such an interesting audience from Manila, everywhere. They have somehow involved the entire geography, and I had like very interesting things. They're very young collectors. They obviously have money, but they don't know if we're going to take them serious. They were saying that I bought from Prinzinger, I bought from this gallery, I bought from. So they were first telling me like which galleries they bought from, so I would listen to them. But I do listen, but like they must have had some experiences. So Asia, Hong Kong is one market I really feel like it will still keep on expanding. For my local market, I hope it holds on for a while. But and in London, I'm just a baby. I'm just trying to get to know. I'm just trying to say I'm here also. Give me some space. And New York has always been very generous to me, so I will be going back to New York.
I think forecasting like that is something very difficult, and as Yasim says, we don't really like to do that. What we do like to do is keep everybody very excited about the program, for example. You know, the shows that are coming up, be it in Hong Kong or in London, and just really try and do a good job on that front. If you're talking about money and markets, that's a whole other discussion. So I think if we end up thinking only about that, it will lead to nothing. So, and Hong Kong is a very exciting platform for us to be, and where, you know, the situation, be it political or monetary, is completely different. It's another animal, and we operate. It's a global organization, and you know, everything is online as well. So there's tons of little opportunities all the time. So I'm going to say I feel positive.
My aspiration for 2017,
I need a new supervisor.
actually, seriously, it was the first, I just answered the first thing I thought of very subjectively was like stuff like time to waste. And of course new artworks, but also that are exciting. Not that the artworks by our artists are not exciting, but you know they have to produce so much, and there's good works coming out, but sometimes, you know, I wish like there's like 2 months of like almost work. Sometimes I wish it would boredom, and then there's a show where you're like, is that really, we did this, you know, or like a big surprise. Now we do so many fairs, so many shows, up in the hall, down in another space, that is like, you even, I don't know, you even not get the space and time to really perceive it. So I do not want to say I want to pace down, you know, or like deep acceleration to slow down the thing, because, you know, this doesn't happen in terms of, I'm not hoping that the market is slowing down, you know, it's like, I mean, it can slow down a bit, but you still get my salary, and you'll still be like happy or so, but of course we want to have exciting shows. But it's at the moment, me, my colleagues, artists, actually everyone is, I won't say borderline, but on the edge. It's pretty much, but it's in the nature of our kind of system probably. And so I have this naive hope that maybe we can go 1 millimeter back the edge, and that this leads to still great shows and good artworks.
So we have a few minutes. Does anyone have any questions for any of us? Just raise your hand. Yes, sir.
It's a general question. You spoke a little bit regarding online marketing and being online on the internet. You spoke about the sales side of aspects, the pricing. How do you see the internet in terms of just kind of mere promotion and sensitivity around putting the artists out there, and how could they benefit from that?
In terms of the artists, I think there are artists who are sensitive about putting their artworks online. I would say this is fewer than most. Most artists, I think, really appreciate having their artwork online, having their artist biographies online so that they can touch more collectors around the world. And specifically from a standpoint, my expertise would be if working with artists, for instance, in Pakistan or Iran, who don't have an international platform and can't get their artwork out there, the internet has suddenly made a platform for them where they can virtually do that. So, at least in my opinion, it's a very good thing.
From the gallery perspective,
It's branded. The artist name gets branded. You know, the more it's like spread out and distributed, not just only the name, also the images, of course, attached to it. The more people will be like, you know, I realized myself, and like, oh yeah, sure, I've seen these artworks. And then actually don't have the name to it. And opposite as well, and then I have it now. Or opposite around, oh yeah, that name, but I cannot really associate it with an artwork, but you know, there's something, I mean, this is the way our consumer culture functioning, and this is the tool for it, and this is how every market is functioning. You can have the strategy to say, of course, it's about, you know, the best is that the artist is associated with a particular museum because if he shows a bad museum, it's for a bad show, it's not so good. But if it's not present at all, it's a bit difficult. And then they complain, oh, I didn't earn money before I'm dead. You know, sometimes you have to decide. For us, it's good. If you find in the state of an artist who never wanted to be in the internet in 40 years, it will be like for the galleries, of course, because then we can make a branding of, we discovered an oeuvre of like 400 paintings, and he refused to be shown on art scenes. This is why we discovered it. So this is one strategy you can do, but as you said, I think a lot of artists also are maybe ambiguous about it. Like, oh, I actually don't like this, you know, being branded online, but I know I cannot escape it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Show on your website either.
Yeah.
So that would be then the ultimate.
About these discussions too.
Exactly. But,
Yeah.
Besides, you know, you already very conversations here, like these collaborations are these are what are some of the visual marketing trends that you'd like to see more of in your art? Really think that simply more.
I can say what I've seen do really well. I think specifically for the art world, Instagram has been, I think, a real hit because it's an image-based program as opposed to some others. Twitter's all words, so it's less exciting. Instagram, I know galleries who have sold works just by posting an image on Instagram. And creating these places where you can have followers and you can send users more information based on their interests. I think we're only just at the tip of the iceberg. What we learn from the data of people using these sites, and if we could take that apart and then figure out how to best serve them. The other site that a lot of people are using now, I've noticed, is video-based, so like Snapchat or Vine, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future because people like that experience of I'm walking through the fair with you and highlights, and an image is stationary, but a video sort of takes you into that experience more.
About it, especially Instagram. I just remember one of our collectors, pretty big collector, by the way. It's all, you know, having an opinion on judging the internet or stuff like Artsy or Instagram, but it's about how we're using it. And of course, we do have collectors like this one thing what they use, you know, they're almost playing Monopoly. You know, they're showing, they're at a dinner, seeing new artworks and showing this like, what shall I buy, what shall I buy, how much is it, how much shall I press it, you know? I mean, it's a game of rich people sometimes, but of course, if you see that, you're like, oh my God, they're really violating the artworks through Instagram. I would call it really bad style. By the way, the other collector who's not doing it, he was saying never see me again next to this person. You see? But you know, I don't want to forbid it, and I do not want to judge and say Instagram and art and everything is bad because some people are treating artworks like, you know, I mean, they're not taking it from the wall and throwing it around saying, catch it. You know, they're still doing it on a virtual level. So they're free to do it. But I would, even though I'm a rather conservative person about digital media, I would not say it's almost used and it fosters people treat out of a bad way. But yeah.
Hi, just maybe one last question towards also Instagram. I mean, you know, or comment as such, it is becoming much more accessible. I think when we're talking about iconic art, you know, maybe under $30,000, under $40,000, you don't actually have to see an artwork or to interact with it. If you really like it, you know, Instagram is changing the way we look at art, buy art. I actually curated a show called #Abstract, which was around that process of how we do it. And you know, maybe we were talking about accessibility. You know, sometimes new collectors are intimidated by approaching galleries, talking to people, even though it's in a friendly environment like an art fair, which I always suggest people go to. You know, maybe through the internet, through the way they interact, it becomes an easier way to ask the questions that would otherwise find intimidating to talk to. And selling also over the net is not a new thing. I mean, we were getting PDFs prior to fairs a long time ago, so it's just made it a bit different. It's just made it a bit accessible in that way. Just a comment in the sense of how Instagram is actually, you know, aiding the way on how people research art, look at art, and feel more confident to come to places like this and buy art.
Just to add to that, having worked in Hong Kong for a couple years, I think, to answer your question more fully, this side of the world is way behind. And Asia is light years ahead of us in terms of buying art online, and though you might not like this, when I would go to an art fair in Beijing or Shanghai, they don't want your business card, they scan your QR code, the galleries are selling their artwork over WeChat, they don't even have a conversation. I mean, it's like you're scanning through, you're pressing click, your credit card details are in there, and the next day your painting arrives. So I think if anything, the trend is going to be even more so online with these social media type digital marketing apps that allow you to make these purchases even quicker, and also, unfortunately or fortunately, engage less sometimes with the gallery, because you're putting even more information out there. And so if you look at some of these Chinese art collecting websites, they want as much information on there as possible, so you don't need to pick up the phone, because it's about what's quick and easy and fast. That makes me sad, because we always want to bring it back to the personal relationship and falling in love with a piece and buying a piece because you love it, not because it's just something you're going to flip and it's an investment. But if we look at the power that the Chinese buyers have had in the art market, I would say that a trend to watch out for would be easier e-commerce on digital platforms for buying art. Anything else? Of course.
I mean, actually, I'm always happy with what's happening about the transportation costs.
So thank you very much, everyone. Please come up and ask us any questions if you have any others.
Thank you very much for your participation.